Welcome back to JoJo's Bizarre Adventures anime review. This is part 5. This one we'll talk about the OVA one-shot that the series had, my final thoughts on the series overall, and where the series can go. First up, it's the OVA. Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan. This OVA, which is basically 23 minutes, is actually an adaptation of the third of the one-shots that now this particular character got his own spin-off one-shots. Overall, there was basically about 8 of these released. I say 8 even though that there's been about 7 put into a trade. Now before the OVA itself, these one-shots were released from July 7th, 1997. That was when the first one was released. And the last one came out just a few months ago, August 12th of this year. Yep, so 20 years these one-shots were coming out, and the last one-shot came out exactly 2 months after this one-shot was released. This one-shot is the most recent thing they released for the JoJo's Bizarre Adventures anime. Yep. Excuse me, and this OVA was only released 6 months ago. Yep, just 6 months ago they released this OVA. And from what I can tell, mostly put, it sticks exactly to the OVA. Now, the story is called Episode 5, Millionaire Village. When I hear these names like episode numbers, I'm like, where the heck, where's Episode 1? Here are the episode titles for these ones that are listed here. Episode 16, The Confessional. Episode 2, Matsukabe Hill. Episode 5, Millionaire Village, which basically the OVA was adapted from. Episode 6, Approaching Seashore. Matsume Family Moon Viewing. Thus Spoken Rohan, Episode 4. Episode 7, Monday Sun Shower. And Episode 9, DNA. There was one other one-shot released, which is not listed. Yeah, this is actually one where it's him going to some other place. It's I think it's called. Yeah, there was and here's the release dates for these one shots. The first one was released July 7th, which was the first overall one shot released, and the next one wasn't released until January 2008. Basically, almost 11 years later. The third one, basically the episodes, was released on November 22nd, 2012, 4 years later. 4 was released the following year on October 28th, 2013. Episode 5 the following year, September 22nd, 2014. Episode, the sixth one, December 4th, 2015. And that was only just 2 years ago. There was one other one that's not listed on there. It's called Rohan Kishibe Goes to Gachli. Yeah. There's a couple of these one-shots where he goes to Italy. One of whom he goes with his smoking hot editor. Yeah, this editor has this hairstyle that's similar to... I actually got a chance to see it again in the OVA. It's very similar to that of Juvia. Juvia Lock. I think it's Juvia Lockhart, I think her name is. The character from Fairy Tail. It's a similar hairstyle, but Juvia's hair is blue. This smoking hot editor, her hair is red. And luckily enough, she's not in love with Rohan, despite the fact most women probably find this guy attractive. She revealed in this one shot she has a fiance. Now, pretty much with the story with this one. Now, before I get to let's talk about the story for this one. This one starts out pretty much how the one shot starts out, basically of Rohan doing stretchy exercises with his fingers. Yep, just stretching his arms like this, and then doing his things with his fists. He does it, looks like, for about a couple minutes, and then he goes straight to drawing a thing. And then it cuts to Rohan meeting with his smoking hot redhead editor, which she reveals she's actually 25 in here, and Rohan is supposed to be 27. Okay? That doesn't make much sense because it was revealed, I think it was if he's supposed to be 27, that means this takes place in 2007. Yeah, that means it takes place in 2007. even though the one-shot itself came out roughly in 2012, basically 4 years, because here's the thing. The Diamonds Unbreakable series took place in 1999. Rohan basically survived an attack in 1984, which revealed he was about 4 years old at that point, and since it takes place 15 years later, he's basically about 1920-ish. So this one shot takes place. It does take place after, the initial series ended. It takes place roughly about 8 years after the part ended. Yeah, that's what it is with a lot of these one shots. It takes place like right afterwards. But here's kind of something a little odd though. His editor has a tablet. As far as I know, they weren't exactly around in 2007. No, around the mid 2000s, I don't think people much have for tablets. Those things were come out not until like the last several years. It's still odd to see a tablet where something is supposed to take place in 2007. Yeah, roughly about 8 years after the events of the series. That could now one thing now at the ending they have shown there's a three of the four main characters from part 4, which I'll get to in a minute. So this Millionaire village, apparently they really get there. Basically, they have a whole thing about good manners. The whole motif is good manners, like walking a certain way, holding a cup a certain way. It's like these people are a bunch of rich snobs who basically think if they're not to their way of thinking, they basically think that they're being rude, despite the fact that from look of it, the editor, I don't remember the editor's name. She's being very polite. She has shown good manners. She introduced herself, then she introduced her artist. Now it's kind of implied that she, even though she's his editor, but it's kind of like that she takes orders from him, which is odd. Despite the fact she kind of also acts like his assistant in a way where she basically has to keep up with deadlines. Apparently, he has a short story that is 45 pages long. I have never heard of a short story that's 45 pages long. Short stories generally tend to be about 1 to 2 pages, not 45 pages. A short story one shot. And apparently he wanted to do it on the solar eclipse, the annual solar eclipse, which apparently they thought that was interesting. I have heard also that he also does 2 series. One is like Pink Boy, I think it's called, which they reference that in his debut appearance. He does a couple series. Let's see. I had to look it up here. But he does do a couple one shots. It's a couple series. Let's see. It's not listed on here per se, but he does do a couple series. They do reference in the series. But there was at one point after basically Josuke beat him up, he had to take a month off to recover from injuries. Yep. So the reason why that they're going to this Millionaire village because his editor wants to purchase a villa there. Apparently, it cost 3 million yen to buy. I don't know how much that is in American currency, but I'm sure it's probably a lot of money. Probably a lot more than $3 million. I highly doubt 3 million yen translate to $3 million. My personal guess is it's probably a little bit more. Look at these places. These places do look like, looking at a picture above, you don't get a chance to see these places that much. You don't get a chance to get a good look at these mansions at all. They look like good from a look above, but not in person. You don't get a chance to see them at all because they don't show it at all. And aside from the editor, the only character in this one shot that basically appears here, aside from the main character, Rohan, and of course his smoking editor, is this little boy who looks like he's about 10 years old. Yeah, he looks like he's 10. His hair is very Yu-Gi-Oh style-esque, basically look like it's spiked but brushed down. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And apparently gives them tea. Before they go into the place, they get there by hiking to the place. They must. Apparently, this place is like 80 kilometers from the city, so it looks like roughly about 10 miles from the city. And they get there. That's when she reveals the whole good manners thing. And she really wanted to buy a place there. And it's also revealed that apparently no one has bought a villa at this place since 1989. Which I'm like, what? No one has bought a house in this place in 28 years? Seriously? Yeah, because they're so stuck up basically about good manners type of thing. I get the fact having good manners is great, but it's like they go way over the top with the good manners stuff, like how you walk, how you hold a cup of tea. Wow, God, it's like we're really silly. So they apparently find a bird, and they put it in a box. Though the box does have arrows. Now Rohan puts the bird in his pocket, the bird box in his pocket, basically, and they walk in. They walk through the place. You can just see some nice bridge. Take off their shoes. Go in the particular room, and he points out the fact that maybe it's a test. Basically, they're watching like how they pick up a cup of tea, and she kind of basically picks up the right way. Basically, pick up by the saucer. But apparently, you have to hold the cup with the thing with 2 fingers. Now, if you're holding a teacup, generally a lot of the time people hold it with just 2 fingers a lot of the time. Not 3 fingers, which is a little odd. Apparently, that was one of 3 ways she actually broached rule. Apparently, she broke 3 good manners. So, she walked over a line. She stepped on a line. She doesn't hold her teacup properly. And she's sitting in the wrong place, even though that normally that is where they're supposed to sit. From what I can tell, basically people do purchases like this, and try to reconsider, like try again. So what they do, they have, apparently it's implied that her mother and her fiance die in a car crash, one of whom dies of a heart attack, and Rohan, who is not stupid, basically realized something is really going on, like some kind of evil supernatural force is going on here. Basically, you can tell by his stand, and so he basically uses his stand, Heaven's Door, I think it is. He basically turns people to books. It's shown several times this in the anime and manga. He writes it in the little boy's head, where he breaks the rules. So in exchange for because he apparently broke one rule, because apparently he attack them for some reason, even though that he has shown very good restraint. Even though he didn't show his shoes the right way, he had to be reminded about that. But generally put, the guy did show good manners, from what I can tell anyways. And apparently also one point, and all of a sudden, basically, like not long after the other finds out that her boyfriend and her mother died in a car crash, she starts having a seizure. I mean, really? A 25-year-old woman who looks really healthy having a seizure? Seriously? I mean, I get maybe some people who basically have had health problems, but this woman looks really healthy, and yet she's having a seizure, and the bird is basically dying. It's like dying like crazy, and bugs coming out. It's like, okay, like they'll leave. It's like try again. It's like stuff like that with the good manner stuff, and he says, okay, we're gonna go home. It's like, because he kept breaking, because the whole walking the line, he gets dead multiple times. He says, you can return the stuff you basically took from her, like her life and her fiance and her mother, and of course bring back this bird. And they just walk out, perfectly fine. Everything is back to normal. And then of course the OVA ends with him at a cafe with Kohan, Koichi, Josuke, and Obado. Now, Josuke doesn't say a word. You only see him briefly for about a couple seconds. All you see is the back of his head. I know it's him because of the hair. Yeah. Kotaro speaks for a couple lines. I mean, aside from Rohan and his editor, and of course the little boy for this one scene, Obado basically, apparently Rohan likes staying at Koshei's house for some reason. Koshei is supposed to be, I don't know, he's supposed to be in his 20s by now. I don't know. But This was a pretty interesting one. It was an odd one-shot to start off with, and then it got really interesting once all the supernatural stuff popped up. Yeah. Overall, good one-shot. I do recommend it. But you have to be patient with it, because it takes a little while to get going. The last one-shot they released was one called DNA, which actually showed Yanako basically making her first appearance outside of the actual main series, in manga form per se, in this one-shot, trying to help you try to have Rohan fix this little girl. Apparently speaks backwards, and they sort of have, and apparently she was born via a sperm donor, and apparently her mother, basically the woman who basically is a friend of Yanako's mother, apparently found the sperm donor's father, found the sperm donor and married him. Yep. And it's nice to see Yanako. She looks a bit different. It's kind of like this one shot was not done by the regular artist per se, because Yanako looks very different. Heck, when I saw her, like, wow, it's like maybe the way the one shot was drawn, it's like maybe it was a bit rushed, but it was a good story. But if this takes place in 2007, why in the world were the three characters still wearing their school uniforms? Honestly, it makes me Kohan, basically, if this is supposed to take place about 8 years after the events of the show, I would probably say that all these characters are probably supposed to be, aside from Rohan, I'd say all of them are supposed to be in their 20s. I'd say, since Rohan's 27, that means all the rest of the characters must be, let's see, I'd say they're probably about 25. Yeah, but it seems hard that Rohan be hanging out with Koshin basically for some reason. I don't know, but yeah. But yeah, that's really it. Final thoughts on the anime. Great anime series. It, for the first 2 seasons, it looks like a pretty good animation. Then all of a sudden, the third season, it's like, wow, they drastically changed the animation to be way too close to the manga, where the sky is yellow the whole series. And it kind of reminds me a bit of a motion comic. But not in a bad way, per se. The animation looks great, but wow. And I gotta mention this. JoJo basically looks like his hair is growing into his hat. That's the way it looks. But yeah. Do I think that possibly they could adapt Part 5? I heard rumor that they might be adapting Part 5, but who knows? I'm only about halfway through Part 5 when it comes to that particular thing. But this was one great series to watch. It's just too bad I never got a chance to finish watching it dubbed, because they only started dubbing this thing roughly last year. And they only dubbed, I think it was 26, roughly the first 31 episodes of the series. Out of a 113 episode anime, they only adapted the first 31 episodes. Now, this anime is roughly the same length as Yu Hakusho. Yu Hakusho was 112 episodes. This is 113, roughly 1 episode longer than the last one. But here's something unique about this one. Like Yu Hakusho, which was consistently done over the course of a few years, this is a bit weird for an anime to do. Where, let's see if I can get to it. This is how the anime works when it comes to this. It starts in 12. That's when they aired the first 2 seasons. Yep. So yeah, they aired the first 2 seasons in 2012. Yeah, and here's how the schedule works when it comes to this thing. The initial first season of the show, it starts in Japan from October 5th, 2012, and it ends roughly in April 5th, 2013. Yep. Now, the dub started October 15th, 2016, and believe it or not, the last episode for the season ended on my birthday. Yeah, April 15, 2017. Yep, ended on my birthday just this year. Stardust Crusaders, which is currently airing right now. I think it's airing tonight. Yep. Now, this started from, and this is odd though, okay? So, the first half of the season starts from, this is the original sub, April 4th, 2014 to, September 12th, 2014. The dub started July 29th, 2017. The last dub episode for this thing aired just last weekend. It aired, it was episode The Sun. Actually, it's airing today. Yeah, episode 18 of the season, which is the 45th episode of the season. The second half of the season started July 9th, 2015, and ended in June 19, 2015. Now, the last season air, it started from April 1st, 2016, and aired the final episode December 23rd, 2016, which was basically roughly almost 1 year ago, and the OVA was only released 6 months ago. The thing with the other 4 parts is, Part 5 is 155 chapters. Part 6, which basically is the last one that's virtual continuity, that one is 152 chapters. Part 7 is 95 chapters, and the current one, I believe this month, will be releasing its 72nd chapter. Basically, the manga is over 900 chapters. As for how long it would take to adapt a 155 chapter manga, well, they probably would do the same thing they've been doing for the past 4 parts. They probably do like 3 to 5 chapters per episode. It just depends exactly what Daewoo Production wants to do. I hope they do adapt it, because from what I've read so far, it's a pretty interesting manga, because Part 5 does not star a member of the Joestar family, but the son of the main villain of Part 1 and 3. Also, his influence, Dio Brando, that's why we're not appearing in Diamonds Unbreakable, his influence is felt because Ulrich's father is basically turned into this creature. Apparently, he also sold his soul to him. So when he was killed, when Dio Brando was killed in 1988, he turned to this ugly-looking thing, and apparently he's been stuck in this for the past 10 years. Yeah. So, I don't get why Jotaro didn't tell him, like, yeah, I'm kind of responsible for your father looking like that, so, yeah. I mean, it's like Dio is not really mentioned all that much in here at all. I mean, he's mentioned in flashback. I would kind of thought maybe because he was a popular villain, maybe they'll mention a little bit more, but I guess not. But also, this was the first one not to have the main villain be a vampire. I get they want to do something different. Okay, you have a stand user, fine. Dio Brando was a stand user in the last one. Deiju stands the last one, and at least they explain how the stands basically were created, which I think is great. The fact that, and Part 5 and 6 does have stands. I have heard they do that. Part 5 definitely is. I'm reading right now. Part 6, I have read they do have stands in that one. Though that one stars the illegitimate daughter of Jotaro, the main protagonist of Part 3 of the manga, Stars Crusaders. Otherwise, though, that's really it for this particular part. Stay tuned for Part 6, which probably will come out tomorrow, and that will be on the OVA series, which adapted Part 3. So I'll be talking about Stars Crusaders again, though it's my thoughts on the OVA series. Though it's only 13 episodes long. I don't know how long each episode is. If it's 23 minutes, fine. But I'm going to talk about basically the OVA next part. That'll be Part 6. Part 7 is going to be the animated film, which is an adaptation of Phantom Blood. Part 8 is supposed to be on the live action film, which I still haven't found a subversion released that yet. Yeah, all I can find is trailers. But when I get a chance to watch that film, I will talk about it in Part 8. Okay? Until I see you all in the next video. Bye.